everyone, and welcome to Twitch Tales, Episode 8, Holdover. Where did we leave off in Episode 7? Well, let's find out in a lovely letter to your sisters. Minaki, Maya. Hey, sorry if I haven't written in a while. Things got a little crazy. Last one I wrote, I said that I was going to be meeting with the king, and, well, I did, but I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. Normally I'd say that I wish you were here, but I guess I'm glad that you're not. I'm not going to lie, I'm feeling a little nervous. I've got some dangerous times ahead of me. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. As you know, I arrived on Drenhe, and I was met with a warm reception by the guild here. I was sent off to explore the Drenhe swamp and found it very difficult. There was some dangers in the swamp that I wasn't ready for. It wasn't anything I couldn't handle, and so when I left to make my report to the guild, they said that the fact that I'd discovered that there was a dragon in the area that had gone missing recently, that was news worthy of the king. Apparently he has some standing decree that says that any news of dragons in the area or changes to their behaviours needs to be reported to him. So off I went to the capital, Wendraven. On the way I met with a hill giant. He seemed pretty dangerous at first until I realised he was just a child. And he was out trying to, I guess, look after himself. I guess you two and I know better than most how difficult it can be for a kid to find food for themselves. And so I took pity on him, and thankfully I was able to convince the mob that was after him that he didn't mean any harm by stealing their livestock. He was just feeding himself. And if they wanted to just help him instead of persecute him, maybe he would help them out. I think he's on board as a guard of sorts. I hope he's still doing okay. Anyway, I went off to the capital, and I've never seen a city so big. It's beautiful, but a little overwhelming. The smoke and the smog from the industries, it was a little too much at times. Not that it was going when I arrived. It turned out I arrived on a Sinter day. Everything was shut in honor of Sintalan. And so I couldn't really speak to the king that day, which was probably for the best, because I made an appointment with his guard on the gate to the palace, and I just had the rest of the day to myself. I went to explore Sarani's bathhouse, and it was lovely to get clean after so much travel. And then I went to the library and had a lovely time exploring some of the books in there. I stayed at an inn and woke before dawn the next day to make my way through the city. And when I got to the palace, it was a little new of an experience. I waited outside the palace until the gates opened, and I was joined by a few other citizens of Drenhe, the capital probably. They each had their stories to tell and their problems that they were bringing to the king. There was a little man, a hobbit I think, he had problems with the taxman. There was a couple fighting over something or other, maybe they were brother and sister or something, maybe fighting over inheritance. And there was a really interesting gentleman from a plane I've never met before. I think he was from the Earth plane. What did he call himself? It was something like Javelin. Spear. His name was Spear, and he said he was an Earth... what was it? An Earth Genie? Genie Sea or something? Anyway, in time I was invited in to meet the king and to present my problems to him, at which point I handed over the letter that Randy from the guild had given me. And the king's advisor, his arcane advisor, he seemed only to be a 16-year-old boy or so, but he had incredible magic. He studied the letter, I suppose, making sure that it was safe and making sure it wasn't a fraud. And then he handed it to the king. And after the king read it, he acknowledged that the Drensal was maybe a little too much investment for what it was worth. And so he retracted my contract. However, he was very kind in that he acknowledged the time that I'd taken out of my life to come all the way here. And so he contracted me for another job instead. And this is why I'm feeling a little trepidation. The job he's asked me to do is to head north of Wendraven, past a town called Holdover, and towards a large city called Stanhon. On the way, apparently, there's a bit of a treacherous path that he needs me to map. It heads through an area called the Death Plains. I'm hoping that the name is a little bit of an exaggeration. I'm hoping that it's not quite as bad as they say. Anyway, I best be off now. I've got a long journey ahead of me. Wish me luck. I hope you're well. Noodle. And that's where we're picking up today. So you have been given the task with the king. You've been given the task of heading north of the city that you're currently in, out of the palace and north of Wendraven, through a town called Holdover, a bit of a crossroads town. Continue heading north towards a city called Stanhon. And once you get towards the mountain that Stanhon is built on, you'll start to head through an area known as the Death Plains. The reason for it will become very apparent when you get into them. But there is a path that goes around the Death Plains and a path that goes through it. The path that goes through it is much better for the wagons and carts, but it is more dangerous, and so they're hoping to map it out and see if it's still as dangerous as it used to be. So how do we know where we're going to be going? How do we know in-game where our path lies? If only there was some kind of map. Cue the new merchandise! Ba-bam! We have merchandise on the store for Drenhe, the map of Drenhe. This is the island that you are on. This is the island, part of which you will be mapping out. You started your journey by arriving at the port town of Portsend right there. You headed a little bit north into the Drensal swamp right here, and you met some swamp elves from Corsfret. You then headed south through Peloton, skirted the south end of the mountain range where you saw the hill giant, and then you continued heading inland to Wendraven. Now you need to head north to Holdover, north up from there towards towards Stanhon. On your way through Stanhon, you'll pass through the very tip of the Greater Death Plains, and then from there he's asked you to head north to Whitfield and even further north towards the Lesser Death Plains and the East Drenlark, and map that area of the world, which, though they know where it is, they do not have a lot of detail of the area, and so they've asked you to map it out a little. I'm going to pop this behind my display case to help it stay nice and flat. Perfect. Just like that. And that's going to help it stay nice and flat for a bit. So if you want a map of Drenhe as well, you can get that at roberthartleygm.com. So after being tasked with this mapping job, technically two different mapping jobs, one to map out the path through the Greater Death Plains towards Stanhon, and then a separate job to map around the north of Whitfield, near where the Lesser Death Plains are. Those were given to you as two different contracts. The Royal Financier provided some funds for the journey. You got 20% of each job up front and 20% upon completion, the rest on completion. You also were given a few magical items to help you on the way. You were given a potion of lighter healing, a potion of greater healing, and a potion of moderate healing, which you can see in your inventory right here. Boop! You already had a light healing, so you've got two light healings, you've got a moderate healing and a greater healing, so you're pretty good on healing potions right now. You were given 2 different potions of fire resistance because the Greater Death Plains, per their name, is a very dangerous place. Part of the reason for it is that it has a volatile connection towards the plane of fire. And it's a very hot place with lots of firestorms and such raging through it at times. So you've got 2 potions of fire resistance should you need them. And then if you see down in the far right of this screen, you can see that you were also given some hand wraps of Orc Strength. 6 times per day, or up to 6 times per day, you can use 1 charge from your monk hand wraps to imbue yourself with the strength of an orc, which gives you a strength of 16 for 10 minutes. And then once the 10 minutes is up, you can either use another charge to continue it, or you can let your strength reduce back down to what it was, which you'll see is normally a -1. So you'll go from -1 to +3 if you use the orc wraps. Is using that charge an action, or is it something we can do for free at the start of a fight? That's a good question. I think I put it at using a bonus action to activate them. So you have the wraps on, and you can use a bonus action to activate them. And then every day they regain a certain number of the charges. So if you use all 6 charges, there's a chance that you don't get all 6 back the next day. Look at all those daggers. You do have a lot of daggers, yeah. Shall we'll need money in the Death Plains. Well, you are heading through. You're starting in a city and you're heading to another town before you get to the Death Plains. So there's a chance that you wanted to use money to buy things or what have you before then. While we're on the topic of merchandise, I should mention as well, these are not yet readily available, but they are coming soon. We have Robert Hartley dice. We have made some dice. These are more in the style and coloration of the B-Team campaign, Apis Hive, and perhaps my Merry Gentleman Fey character. This little geezer. But we have some Robert Hartley dice as well. They are coming soon to the Dice Goblin merch store. Dice Goblin are my dice sponsors, and they have the RH logo on the front to match with my RH logo. Bing, like that. So that is pretty exciting stuff. Use those dice for your DM dice instead of using ours. Sure, I can use your dice for the wooden ones, and then I can use these ones for when I'm rolling as a DM. Why not? All right. Let's head back over to the main page here and jump into the episode proper. So you are in the capital. What do you want to do? You're in Wendraven. It is Fin Day. It is the first day of the week. It is early springtime. Let's see how cold it is. What's the weather like today? It is below average. It's not. It's chilly but not raining. And you have most of the day left ahead of you. You got up before the crack of dawn to go and visit the king. You did wait around for a few hours while he dealt with other people's problems, and then he got into your problem, and then you waited for the financier and stuff. So there's lots of waiting around. But by the time you are released from the palace with your potions, your hand wraps, your gold in your pocket, it's about, let's say, equivalent of like 11 a.m, give or take. So you've got most of the day left ahead of you. Do you want to do anything around the capital before you set off, or do you want to set off north? I'll tell you that you, at your walking speed, because you are an Ernivora, which is already a faster walking speed than most characters, and you're also a monk, so you've got increased walking speed. With your walking speed, you can get to Holdover. Let's say you ask around, ask how far Holdover is. They say about 45 kilometers. You ask around and you think you could make that in about 5 or 6 hours of walking, depending on how flat it is and how direct. Can we see if there's anyone happening to go in the same direction as us? Well, there'll definitely be some farmers leaving the town and heading back to their farms, some of which are to the north of the city. So you might be able to catch a ride with a farmer's empty wagon if you want. There might even be some merchants heading all the way up to Stanhon, or at least to Holdover or something. Isn't it through the Death Plains that we're thinking nighttime? Walking through the Death Plains at nighttime might be easier because it might be cooler. Let's get some supplies and make treks. How are we set for rations and travel supplies? Well, let's find out. Have you got rations and such in here? Yes, you do. You've got some rations, you've got a water skin, you've got some honey, you've got some oil, you've got some mess kit and some torches. For a mini-series like this, I'm not going to be too worried about like keeping a track of the minutiae of your rations and such. For your your potions and stuff, I will be keeping track of them, but for your rations, I'll say that you have enough time and money to buy enough for your journey. Plus, you can scavenge on the way if you need to. You're not a ranger, so it won't be as easy as with Apis, but you can always find some food on the way if you want. Let's go to Holdover now. Head to a new town. Can do. Let's boogie. All right. So most people saying let's boogie, let's go, let's head out. So you have a look at your bag as you walk. You open your satchel as you walk through the town, heading out of the royal precinct. You're just double checking your inventory. You're like, yeah, I've got enough rations to last a few days. I've got torches and things. Yeah, I'm good. And you head off towards the north of town. As you head through the royal precinct, you head back into the business district, and through that into the residential districts, and then from there you can make it to the north edge of Wendraven's walls. The walls are currently open at the gates. It is a trading day, and the farmers come and go. There are quite a few farmers moving between the markets of the town and the outskirts of town. You guys would know, being that you are a denizen of this world, that Fin Day, the first day of the week, is named after Fincairn, the god of transactions and merchants and sales and things. And generally speaking, people have a little bit cheaper sales on their goods and items for the first day of the week, and so that's when farmers do most of their trading. They'll work throughout the week to harvest or to prepare or to create their artisan goods, whatever they're doing with it. And then once they're done with it, they take the day off on the Cinta Day, the last day of the week. And the next day they're ready to go. They get up on their horses and wagons and head into the towns to sell their goods. So that's what's happening. By the time that you get to the wall's edge, it's almost noon, and so most of the farmers have already come and gone. Like they've done their morning farmers markets, and they're trundling back out towards the farms. So you can, if you want to, try and cadge a ride with one of them to save walking on foot. But as somebody has mentioned, as one of the neurons in your brain has sort of ticked over, saying having a cadge on a wagon might be a way to attract bandits or something. You're not sure exactly. You can just walk it. You also walk at about a 55 foot per round speed, and a riding horse is about 60 foot. So you walk about as fast as a horse walks anyway. So you wouldn't really be saving all that much time. If we get in a wagon, we can have a nap. All right, most people saying just sod it, let's just go on foot. What's the weather like? It is chilly, but not raining. All right, most people saying let's walk, so we're just going to walk. So you set off walking north of Wendraven. Nothing eventful happens for the first hour or so. You are walking past the farms, walking past the farmland of a city of this size needs a lot of farms to maintain it. We hum a little tune while we're walking. We get our steps in. Yeah, Newfog gets her exercise for the day for sure. After about an hour of walking past farms and such, you start to see the farms getting a little more sporadic, a little bit more spread out. There's less of the crop fields and more into the livestock farms. The further out you go into away from the city and into the foothills of the mountains, you're heading up the western side of the Drenhe Ranges now. It starts to get quite hilly. You're looking out for any monsters or difficulties on the way between the farms and Holdover. It is a lot of hills, so there's a lot of chance for things like hill giants and griffins and wild beasts of this area to become a problem. But you're pretty perceptive. You're not proficient in perception, but you do have, as you see in your species features over on there, you have a thing called predatory patience. That is a homebrewed feature for Ernivora. That basically, if you take a second to stop and hone all of your instincts, you can for that moment. Get proficiency in proficiency and I think even expertise in perception in that moment. So I will roll you a first roll of this episode. Let's head over to the dice cam, give you a perception roll as we go, just to see how you're doing at looking out for monsters on the way. 17. That is a 17 on your dice, plus your modifier for perception in this moment would be plenty enough to tell, to keep yourself out of danger, essentially. So you walk for about an hour out of the farms, an hour further over the hills and such, until eventually you reach a small river. It is a well-traversed path between here and Holdover, and so it is a large, very well-established stone bridge, just over this, wide, I should say, rather than large, because it's not a very long river. There is a river down from the mountains that you cross over, and then continuing from there, there's several more hours, about 3-ish hours of walking over plains. So what do you do as you walk? Is there anything that you want to you pass the time with? Because you'll be walking for about three hours of not much happening. Is that bridge in any way suspicious? Let me roll an insight check on the bridge for you. That's an 11 plus your insight. You do have proficient in insight, so that would be a 17. Doesn't seem like it was suspicious, unless whatever is suspicious about it is a higher DC than 17. Do some whittling, maybe. Sure. Practice our judo rolls as we walk around. There's a few moments where you're just like throwing yourself to the ground as you walk, just to keep yourself entertained, I suppose. There's also whittling. You get out a block of wood and a knife for some of it and whittle something. What are you whittling? Do you reckon? You're whittling a little bearfolk person? Are you whittling a little statuette of the king? Are you whittling a hill giant? Counting bugs. We didn't beat the bridge DC. Got to keep limber. Yeah, maybe you're singing to yourself. We're sculpting a little sculpture of a shambling mound, maybe. Sketching the landscape. That's a lot to fit into 5 hours of walking, I guess. But I suppose you got the time for it. You've got a lot of different interests. It seems as Noodle. You've got a lot of things that you want to do with your downtime. So you do some sketches, you do some whittling, you do some practicing rolling. We look like a video game character figuring out all the buttons. Essentially, yes. Do some sketching, sketch the landscape a little bit. Eventually, after about, what would it be? I think you would be, we'll go on the upper side of it because of the stuff you're doing along the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll say 5 hours of walking. You start to arrive at more farmland, and the farmland is moving in towards a town that you can see on the horizon. You move up through this farmland. It's only about 20 to 30 minutes of walking through this farmland before you get to the town of Holdover. What you notice is that Holdover is a bit of a sprawling, low-level town. Like it doesn't have high-rising buildings. It doesn't have a lot of multi-story buildings. It is a lot of bungalows and a lot of cottages. It is very much a crossover town that is halfway between the main city and the next big city, Drenhe and Wendraven. But it's also right on the edge of what is basically like a T-junction to a path through the Drenhe Ranges to Port's End and the place where you have already walked. So you started in Port's End, headed in towards the mountain range, and when you got to Peloton, you could have taken a path through the mountains and ended in Holdover, but instead you took a left and went south along the mountains and skirted around it instead. It's the safer but much longer path to do. Some people just don't like going through the mountain range because it's where a lot of orcs and monsters live. So Holdover is a crossover town for adventurers and people to pass through. You also notice that Holdover is not a walled city. There is only a portion of the town that is walled off, and that is the portion to the east that faces the mountain range. It basically keeps the keeps the orcs from wanting to come on down through this area. So what do you do when you arrive in town? It would be probably around about 5 p.m, give or take. And given this time of year, it's starting to get towards civil twilight. The sun will be going down very shortly. Let's see, is it still cold or is it raining now? Let's have a look. It has now started to drizzle a little bit. It's chilly, but it's now a little bit drizzly as well. Stop at a local tavern for a meal, pump the locals for information, stay at an inn, get some rest, food and information from the locals, find lodgings for the night, find a place to sleep. Alright then, so you head into town. You'll notice that immediately upon walking into Holdover and the streets proper, you notice that it's a very, very much a mixing pot. It's a melting pot of different cultures and races. There's a lot of humans here. You would guess that it's at least half human, but everybody else in town are from all kinds of different species. You definitely, within minutes of walking into Holdover, you see several dwarves, you see a few elves, you see a gnome person having a game of chess with a hobbit outside of a little bar. You see a dragonborn walking down the streets in like full paladin gear. You see another gentleman walking just behind him, looking like a sorcerer with the large tiefling horns and a very intimidating appearance to them. There's a few different races, and you see that none of them are getting really looks between them. Even yourself, as an Univora, you've noticed a few times since arriving on this island that people are not used to your kind. It's very difficult to notice. Very difficult to fit in, rather. But people aren't giving you more than a second glance. They're looking at you, maybe a couple of people double take, but they'll look away relatively quickly because they're used to it. What you will pick up while you're in Holdover is that it is a town of adventurers. It is, because of its nature as a crossover town and because of its proximity to the mountain range where the orcs live, there's a lot of people pass through. Any half-orcs? There are, yes. You'll notice a few half-orcs as well. Let me give you a general insight check just to hold over into your town in Holdover. Let's have a look. 11 plus your insight will take you to a 17. I'll just carry on a 17 while in your time in Holdover as you look around, and you do notice with that a couple of the people walking around have sort of a bigger stature, maybe a slightly larger, broader forehead, bigger, more squared jaws. Maybe a couple of them have like tusks pointed out from the bottom of their teeth. Not just humans either. Half dwarf, half orcs are relatively common here too. As you are walking through the town looking for a place to stay, one place catches your eye immediately. It is one of the go-to places of Holdover to stay. There's a few different inns and taverns here, but the one that's on the main street, the largest one, right literally on the crossroads where the actual road meets each other, sort of at the centre of town, there is a large building that's quite sprawled out. It's more of a complex of several buildings at this point. The sign above it says The Scabbard, and it has a picture of a scabbard just like hanging on one of those swinging signs. And you can see that there's lots of people coming and going from the Scabbard. It's a relatively well-used establishment. You can also tell that it's got like a nice little garden out the front of it. It seems like it's well maintained and looked after. This brain cell relaxes a bit seeing the diversity. Yeah. Anyone here that might know their way through the Death Plains? There may well be, but you would have to pay for their services and bring them with you if you wanted them. Would it be insulting to ask half-orcs about orc villages? It might be. You don't really know. What you've learned since arriving in Drenhe is that orcs here are not as respected or honoured as orcs where you come from. They are considered villains and nasty evil folk that are literally outlawed by the king. Let's go into the Scabbard and see what we find. Scabbard looks like a good place to start. Let's pop in there. Alright, so you pop into the Scabbard. You notice upon arriving in that it's a very large inn, it's a tavern, and you can even see that as you walk in there is a little signpost, sort of like one of those wait to be seated signs that you see in restaurants. There's one of those that tells you a little bit about the place, and off to one side it points at the theatre. So apparently Homie Scabbard has an inn, a tavern, and a theatre all in one. And then off to your right-hand side, you can see that there's a bit of a dining room situation. Lots of tables, smaller individual tables with chairs set out, tablecloths on them, carpeted area as well. So it looks like it probably doesn't get a lot of brawls. It's not a rough and tumble barroom brawler. And there is a kitchen that is connected to the dining area. On the left side, as you walk in, is more of a social meeting, a social living room area, really cozy, kind of comfy area, sort of like one of those. I was going to say gentlemen's clubs, but I think that's another euphemism for like a strip club, isn't it? And that's not what I meant. Like a cigars and cocktails kind of comfortable living area, lounge with a fireplace and lots of armchairs and such. Is there any of this that you would notice just upon walking in? The smell of the area, you'd notice that it has like a delicious home cooked dinner kind of vibes to it. You can smell gravy, you can smell roast vegetables, you can smell delicious tender meats, and there's quite a lot of like laughter and jovial attitudes. There is also an area just off to your immediate right before you get into the dining hall area. There is a small coat room, and there's a young gentleman there with a ledger and lots of weapons on racks behind him. And it's a place where you're expected to check your adventuring gear before heading in, because they're used to adventurers. They want to discourage the use of any weaponry when you're solving disputes here. Is it really busy? Not really busy. It's not exactly as sparse or empty as a true introvert would like, but it is not packed and bustling either. It's ticking over. Yeah, there are areas within both the dining hall and the lounge where you'd be able to find a place, like a quiet place to yourself. There's also tables where you'd be able to sit down with strangers and hear their tales. In the lounge area, there is a bar as well that is being currently currently run. And there's some laughter going over from the bartender. You look across and he's a big guy. You wonder if maybe he's got some orcish blood in him, but he seems like maybe he's also just like a large human. Shall we check our daggers? If you want to stay, yeah, you can check your daggers here. See what the prices are like. Yeah, you gather around, you look around. I'll use that same insight roll from before as well. You notice that the scabbard is, where did I write it? Competitively priced. Slightly on the higher end due to the demand outweighing the supply. The people want to stay at the scabbard. It's got a good reputation, it seems, and so they can afford to put their prices up a little. But it's not a high end place. It's just a nice, comfortable place. Let's get inside, have a meal, and chat. All right. So you want to stay here, secretly listen around, maybe listen in on what others are saying about the stuff. Do they sell honeymead here? All right, so you start heading in, and you hear the lad as you start to walk into the inn proper. You hear the lad on the door duty, as it were, says, "Excuse me, if you have any weapons, I can check them for you here before you pop in." So you turn around and oh yeah, sorry, I've got these that I can't really show him your claws, and he goes, "Natural weapons are understandable, just don't use them. This is not a place of fighting. There is a settling square further to the north of town. If you do have any disputes, we ask you to take your problems there. You will be charged any damages if you do start any ruckus. But otherwise, the natural weapons are not a problem. Do you have any actual physical weapons?" And he pats his body down to sort of indicate. You say, "Oh, I do have a few daggers, yeah." He goes, "Personal knives are okay if they're smaller than," and he gets out like a little measuring stick. He goes, "Smaller than this, and you can keep personal knives on you. They're obviously useful for cutting up your meats and stuff." And so you get out a couple of your daggers, and most of them are below the necessary size to check them. Let's say that you'll you check one of your daggers, one of the more hunting knives, one of the bigger slightly things that's a little bit on the larger size, just for remembering. I'll just pop that over there so that we remember that we've actually still got it, but just not on us. He takes the dagger, gives you like a little wooden token, and says, "This is the number that will get the dagger back." And he puts it in like a little knife rack. There you are. Will you be dining with us today? I might be. Yeah. Do you serve drinks in? He says, drinks can be taken between them. Yes. Either way, you can order a drink at the bar and take it in when your food's ready, or you can have your meal in the lounge if you want. What do you guys want to do? Are you here for food? You want a drink? You wanna see if they've got a room for the night as well? Do they at the settling square up north? Do they fight for profit there as well? It says, yeah, there's a ring where you can earn money fighting. Yeah, if that's your thing. Good to know. Thank you. Do you serve fish here? We've got some fish. It's dried fish because we're not exactly close to the ocean in any direction. It's more the red meats and white meats that we've got here. We've got a lot of vegetables as well, and I think we've just got a serving in of a lot of different funguses as well. One of the adventurers came back from the deep below, and they brought back a lot of funguses that they had down there, and I think they're making some like mushroom stews and stuff out of it. I'm not super familiar with the menu though. Let's get food in a room, gather what info we can about the death plains from people. Feet are tired from a day of walking. You have been walking a lot, yes. All right, so you head first to the bar and you ask them about room and board and what have you. You get to meet the bar owner. Let's see. This is Dalen Oxbourne. Dalen introduces himself. Oh shit, how did Dalen sound? It's been a while since I've used him. Dalen's been in one of my home games before. I think it was deep and cockney. I think he goes, "Good day." It's what, darling, cockney. He goes, "Good day, newcomer. We got a new one." Oh, no, it's missing. I've forgotten what your folk are called. Sorry. Something about carnivore or something. That's how I remembered it. Ernivora. That's it. We've got an ernivora in, fellas. And he says that last line over to a couple of dwarven adventurers that are sitting by the bar. They just kind of nod to you and then go back to drinking their mead or whatever. Have you got a room for tonight? He goes, "Oh yeah, we've got room. You're in luck. We've got like I think 2 or 3. Linda, yeah, Linda, we got rooms. Yeah, we got 3 rooms available. There's a bed in the bunk as well." Says, "You looking for a room on your own, or are you looking for a dorm?" Because there's a bed free in the dorm, and then we've got 3 separate rooms. They'll cost you a little more. Depends what kind of room you're after. So what sort of a room would you be wanting? There's a cheap room, mid room, and expensive room, and then the cheapest one is the dorm, where you'd be sharing. Noodle's pretty frugal. We'd order whatever food is reasonably low cost and filling. And then get a room in the dorm where it's cheapest, probably. Dorm room is the cheapest version. It's new and exciting and cheap. We'll just take a bed in the dorm. I'll take that bed in the dorm, Linda. Right, you are. Yeah, alright, no worries. How much is stuff usually? Stay at the inn. You'd be looking at 2 silver pieces. Oh, and then your meals and stuff as well. Meal, you're getting something relatively cheap, and then a drink, 3, so that's 5, and then another drink of the 2, so we'll go 7 silver. He goes, "Alright, so we've got a bed at the dorm, a room in the dorm for the night, just the one night?" Yeah, just passing through. 1 night in the dorm, plus a meal, you're getting a drink. Yeah, I'll have a mead. No worries. Honey mead if you, yeah, no worries. He starts to pour you that out, and he goes, hands you it over and says, "That'll be 7 silver, and then more drinks. They'll be as they go." Yeah, no problems there. And you hand over 7 silver. You have 6 silver and 11 copper, so we'll mark off 6 of your silver and 10 of your copper. So you mark that off, and you've paid for room, 1 meal, and 1 drink for the night. He hands you over a honey mead, and it's very nice. It's well brewed, and then he asks you what you want for your meal, and he slides you over a bit of a menu. It's like a handwritten thing that's pretty hastily scrawled. It's not the nicest handwriting, but that's not the focus of their business. It changes quite a lot with the adventurers that come passing through the area. A lot of people will turn up with various things that they've killed and try to pass it off to the kitchen and be like, "Can you make something out of this?" I've heard that you I heard that you might have some mushrooms from the deep below. What was that? It's the dark ocean, or some people call it the core. You heard of it? You've definitely heard of the core or the dark ocean, or there's a few different terms for it in different cultures, but it's basically talking about the Underdark. Oh, like things from underground. Yeah, that's where a lot of funguses come from. There's we test it, make sure that there's we know what we're doing with testing for poisons and stuff. We know which ones are edible and which ones are not, so there's no worries there. All right, cool. You got anything with like berries in it? Yeah, I can do. Something for dessert. We've got we've got fresh berries and cream for desserts at the moment. Hopefully, the others in the dorm don't mind someone like me in there. I wouldn't worry about it, pal. We've got another look. He points over in the direction of a corner, and you look over, and there's a fellow with a hood up in the corner. But even with his hood up, you can see his nose because it's like a longer, furry snout. He goes, "We got one of them tabaxis over here already. People don't seem to care. Last night we had a oh god, what do you call them? I don't want to be insulting. I forget the name of them, but they're I don't want to be rude. They look like certain other creatures that exist in the world that people ride on. I don't know what you're. I don't mean to be rude. They look like horse people, and you're like, oh, okay, like centaurs? No, not a centaur. Like actual, never mind. Anyway, point being, you're not gonna stick out, fella. It's all right. Oh, okay. Not a fella, but sorry. Whatever you use, that's fine. All right. Let me get you that meal sorted. I'll find something with berries in it for you, and I'll be right back. You want another one, fellas? He says over to the dwarves. No, just kind of slurs. All right. Enjoy. Make yourself at home. And he leaves behind the bar to head into the kitchen and start cooking you up some food, because it seems like, as popular as this place is, he's a little bit of the barman, a little bit of the head chef. He kind of does a little bit of everything. This poor fella trying and failing to be accommodating to the sheer variety of customers. That's exactly it. You picked up on it well. Like, Dalen is very kind and cares a lot about people and the diversity of people, but there's so many different species in this world, and he can't remember all of them. And part of that is me as well, tongue in cheek, saying that I haven't actually named my horse people yet, so I haven't decided what the horse folk are going to end up being called. But there was a horse folk person in here last night, and there's a tabaxi person in here as well. So as you sip your mead waiting for your food, you start listening to conversations. All right, let me give you a perception check. I think in this moment it makes sense for you to use that predatory patience because you're not doing anything else, so you can quite easily just kind of stop and slow everything down and just focus on that natural predator instincts and hone those ears. Can somebody remind me predator patience, because we haven't used it in a while, obviously since February or whenever we actually played. Predatory patience gives you expertise in proficiency in perception, doesn't it? Equinodyne, maybe. Yeah. Gives you proficiency. Does it give you just advantage, or does it give you? I think proficiency and advantage. Is that right? Yeah, I think you might be right. It's not expertise. It's proficiency and advantage. Yeah. All right. TTN's got PP. Just in case, Rafe. Could have been. Yeah, we know. Could have been. Proficiency and advantage. Cool. So for this time being, you are considered proficiency, which means you get to add that +3 proficiency bonus. Perception is a +3 wisdom. So you've got a +6 and advantage. So let's head over to the dice cam. +6 with advantage. That is a 15 or a 13. 15 plus 6 is 21. With a 21, we calm your nerves and calm your any anxieties that might be happening. Calm your just general, calm your unsettled nature of just having travelled for a full day and ended up in a brand new place, and you just start to feel more calm. Sounds start to pick up. You might start being able to distinguish some things that certain people are saying. You start to really focus on the flavors of this mead, the smells of the area wafting in through from the dining room. You get your bearings. Nice. Listening into what people are saying. Well, you'll pick up on a couple things. There is one that says, well, there's a lot of conversation that isn't worth mentioning, but I will mention it all at once. It's not worth like focusing on, but basically there's just general chit chat that you do pick up on first, which is stuff like talking about how long the winter has been and how cold it is, and like hopes that the farms start to the ground starts to soften soon, so the farmers can pick up their stuff. Then the stuff that's worth worrying about, you start talking or hearing adventurers talking. You hear adventurers talking about blood magic, for one thing, and you pick up on a let's say, I think like a large balding human and a smaller, scrawnier, kind of more wealthy-looking human sitting over in one corner talking about orcs doing blood magic up in the mountain range. They're discussing the horrific nature of some of the orcs of that range, breaking bones and cutting themselves, and even poking out each other's eyes in order to cast magic from each other's blood. And that's horrific and grotesque to listen to, but apparently that's one of the things that some of the orcs in the ranges do. You hear about you hear a rumor from one of the people over in the restaurant, sort of wafts over your way, and you start to pick up on the mention of drow and relocation of drow. And one of them says, yeah, I've heard that they brought a whole bloody town of drow up to Starnhon, and they're living in the outskirts now. The place has gone to shit. And some relatively racist comments about the dark elves that have moved into Starnhon up north. The word dragon catches your eye from somebody in the bar as well. This is a tiefling gentleman over in the corner who's sat down next to the tabaxi and is telling him that he's heard from the tribe. He says, I heard from the tribe that that Omsinsi might have died. I'm not hopeful. I'm not naive enough to get my hopes up too much, because it wouldn't be the first time that he's just gone into hibernation. But rumor has it some adventurers came through and slayed him. In response, you hear the tabaxi chime up and say, "It could be why the death plains aren't as hot as they used to be." And then you hear from the dwarves over on the bar sitting next to you, just kind of slurred mumbling about the gnolls that live in the mines of their hometown of Starnhon. And with a 21, that's pretty much what you got. So much for an accepting town. Well, the town itself is mostly accepting, but as you kind of picked up from their conversation, the people that were being a little racist towards the drow were from up north, and they're passing through. And they maybe have brought some of their prejudice with them. There were tieflings in the Death Plains, right? You have heard that there might be tieflings in the Death Plains. You also know from your experience with tieflings that they are usually relatively resistant to heat. And so if there's somebody living in the Death Plains, it could be the tieflings. Should we go and try and sit next to the tiefling and the tabaxi? Sure can, yeah. Your ears perk up to that tabaxi thing just as Dalen returns with a steaming bowl of mushroom stew and another smaller bowl of fresh berries and cream. And he hands you it and says, "Feel free to take a seat anywhere, but please, if you are going to stay in the lounge, make sure to be thoughtful of the people around you. They might not want the smell of your food. You might be best eating it in the dining hall if anybody's turning their nose up at it." Yeah, you say, "Yeah, no problem," and you take the bowls and you head over towards the sort of loungy area in the corner where the tabaxi and the tiefling were. Are you going to try and sit like with them, or are you going to try and sit at a nearby place where you can continue to listen into their conversation? Ask if they've got a seat free. Hey, mind if we join? And the tiefling kind of looks up at you, looks back at the tabaxi and says, "Free country." And you take a seat next to them. It's a very comfortable chair, and it's more of a coffee table situation than a dining table. So you place down your berry bowl and your mead, and start eating your soup, just in your holding the bowl in your hand. The conversation dries up a little bit with you sitting there, but they don't entirely stum up and stop talking entirely. They just they don't continue the conversation about dragons and whatever else they were discussing before. The conversation moves on to, let's say, what would it be? He wouldn't move on to that with a stranger nearby, so he says, have we the tabaxi, that is, he goes, have we had any luck with considering the boat option again? And the tiefling goes, I don't know about the oceans. I'm not a fan of the shark folk that live there. He goes, yeah, but I mean, might be the quicker way around. Where are you all from? As you try to strike up casual conversation. Let's roll you a general charisma check. See how well you come across as, like, just in general polite conversation. See if they're willing to open up to a relative stranger. So straight charisma. Hey, rolled well. 18. You can see that. 18 plus your charisma plus 1. Your proficiency. Let's see. You're proficient in performance, but that's not really going to help you here. So just an 18 plus 1. I think we'll go with 19 for that. You're doing pretty well. You're well above average on your politeness and how polite you're coming across. They don't take issue with you sitting with them or asking them where they're from. It seems like the sort of place where people do end up kicking up stories with strangers. Tiefling says, "I'm from a place called Jesus, what would it actually have been called? It's been a while. The Nymphshashan tribe," but he wouldn't say the name of the tribe. I think he would just say, "I'm from west." "I'm from west of here." And the tabaxi says, "I'm from I suppose I'm from far north." And then the tabaxi kind of looks towards you and takes his hood down, and you see these like large pointed ears that have these like mottled. With his hood down, you can tell that his fur is a lighter brown, and then there's this mottled sort of darker brown mixture spread in around his ears and down the back of his neck. He goes, "You from Triocockshire?" And you say, "Yeah, Ralajer." Wait, no, Ronatea is... You're from two different countries, and both of them sound relatively similar. You're from Rolatea originally, and then Ranajia next. Is that right? I'm gonna have to look it up now. Sorry. Where were you born? You were from Rolatea, and then you were evacuated when the Tarask struck, and you moved to Ronajer. You say, "Yeah, Ronajer." He goes, "Oh, you're a long way from home too, then. So am I. I'm from, not Ronajaya, but I'm from Jirakoksha too. Oh, how'd you end up here? A lot of travel. I overheard you mentioning death planes. I'm actually heading there. Could you give me advice? And the tiefling cocks an eyebrow and he goes, yeah, the advice is don't go. And they both kind of laugh to themselves at that. Would a tiefling be prone to argue? Like if we were to disagree with something mundane, would they argue our point? Completely dependent on the person. There's nothing about their species that would make them more or less prone to argument. Thanks for letting me sit here, eh? I'm Nifa. What are your names? The tabaxi goes, I'm Moonrise. And then the tiefling goes, I'm Harmony. I'm going to get you to make an insight check there. That is a 16. With a 16 plus 6 on insight, that's a 22. 22 beats his deception. You can tell that Harmony is not this guy's name. There was a hesitation and like a moment of eye flicker as if he was trying to decide on what he was going to say. But Moonrise with a 22 insight, you pick up that the tabaxi was very quick with that, and either it's a very well practiced pseudonym or it is actually his name. Don't call him out of it, it's none of our business. Well, thanks for letting me sit here, Moonrise and Harmony. So you know the death planes then? That's where I'm from, says the tiefling. The names of their business, we don't need to pry. Fair enough. Moonrise is the tiefling. Moonrise is the tabaxi. We're still relative strangers, and they're right to not immediately trust strangers. Yeah, especially when names are concerned. As adventurers, they're probably well aware of Fae shenaniganry. You can call me Noodle if you like. I'm happy to call you Harmony and Moonrise. So we kind of have to go to the Death Plains. We've got a contract to do a bit of mapping of it. Who's contracting you to map the Death Plains? Do you tell him? Especially in a world with Fae, it feels okay that they do not give their real names. Yeah. Fae and spellcrafting. Don't tell him, but be vague, don't lie. Don't lie, but be vague about it. Don't tell him at the moment. Just say, just someone who has the money to pay for it. Is that right? Well, if you're going to have to go there, I'd say... I mean, honestly, it sounds glib, but my advice is don't go there. You're going to overheat almost immediately, especially with that fur. My friend here has trouble with it whenever they try to go, and we have to get them all sorts of protections against fire and protections against heat, damage, exhaustion. You're gonna start sweating immediately. You're gonna start running out of water. My other advice is take more water than you think you're gonna need, because you will run out. There is very little water there, and the water that is there is boiling, so it's not easy to hydrate. I'll say also, fire potions and fire resistance potions are your friend. Health potions, don't trust anything there. Don't eat anything there. Don't trust even the rocks, because they might attack you. There's dragons and there's giants and there's roaming bands of dogs. The firestorms will also kill you. The weather will kill you. The heat will kill you. The exhaustion you'll get from just adventuring will kill you. The landscape will kill you. There's parts of the rocks that will kill you. There's fire elementals that will kill you. It's called Death Plains for a reason. It's very difficult to survive there, and don't underestimate it. Okay, thanks. We're just heading through the tip, thankfully. Oh, just the tip? Yeah. Which tip? We're going around. We're mapping out the path from here to Steinhorn. Oh, okay. You should be okay. Have you been through situations? He kind of looks you up and down as if he's reviewing you and your what you're wearing and stuff. Have you been an adventurer long? You go, well, you sound very optimistic about my chances. I can handle myself in fights, and I've I've been. It's not the fights that'll kill you most. I mean, yeah, you'll get into a fight if you're not careful. Not so much around the tip, I guess. Sorry, I'm being pessimistic. We've undergone a lot of setbacks recently, and I'm a little down on my chances. But that's far be it from me to dissuade a fellow adventurer. If you're heading through the mountain pass, that is the safest part of the Death Plains. You will have much more chance of surviving there. I overheard something in town that it might be getting a bit safer than of late. Is that true? And they both look at each other. Where did you hear that? Just from someone in Wendroven. They said that it's getting a little safer. That's part of why I've been asked to sort of map it out to see if the carriages can still get through. See if it's actually safer than we thought. Yeah, well, I'll put it this way. In the mid of winter, in the Death Plains, some adventurers will still roast to death. It doesn't get cold there. It gets cooler, but it doesn't get cold. But lately, this winter just gone, we saw our first rainfall in certain areas that have not seen rainfall in, I don't know, hundreds of years. And what's more is, it started getting a little cooler. Still not cold, but it dropped into what I think even people of your kind would call warm rather than hot. And it came at a time when we were heading out of winter and into spring, when it should have been starting to heat up again a little. So it's been odd, but there's still a lot of people unsure about why it's changing like that. Are you going there soon? It would feel better to have someone that knows the surroundings. I'm afraid not, no. You'd be hard pushed. I mean, maybe not hard pushed. Depends how much coin you've got. Do you have a lot of coin? He kind of says skeptically, again, like looking down at your person, what you're wearing, how you're dressed and such. Kind of looking at the coin purse on your hip. Because the tabaxi, you see the ears kind of perked up at the idea of coin and sort of leant forward a little. I mean, if you've got coin, our plans could change. And he looks back at the tabaxi. The tabaxi kind of narrows his eyes. It's a little hard to read his expression. Don't answer that. I mean, I get by. Yeah, don't we all? If you want an adventurer to help you through the Death Plains, you'll definitely need to fork up a bit of coin. I do know my way around the Death Plains a lot. I grew up there. But I'll tell you that our direction lies south, not north. And so if you wanted us to change our plans, it'd have to be worth our while. Tabaxis would also be predators. Would we be able to read a fellow predator more easily? They are part of the predator, the Nivora class. They are a phenivora. So Tabaxi is kind of a common name for them, but they are a phenivora, in the same way that you are an ernivora. And they would have a lot of the same species features as you, like the low light vision and the keen smell and the predatory patience and stuff. I don't vote for hiring someone. Also, I doubt that we have enough. You have 42 gold on you, which is quite a bit of money, but might not be enough. Depends how much he's talking about. I might find the coin for someone willing to help me do my job and to get back safely. Yeah, I mean, look, you'd be easier to find someone who's already going that direction if you're looking to save coin, but you probably want someone who knows their way around, which is someone like myself, or you want to just stick to the path. Honestly, pal, if your job has been to map the path between here and Starnhon, as long as you're not an idiot about it, as long as you're not foolish, keep your wits about you, make sure you're well prepared, make sure you've got a lot of water. Don't spend much time there. Don't be naive about the sounds you hear. If it sounds like something's about to ambush you, it's about to ambush you. In the Death Plains, there is no food chain. There is a food net, a food mess. Everything eats everything if they can get it. it's hard to come by moisture, it's hard to come by sustenance, nutrients. Anything that is there tends to get burnt up by the fire elementals or firestorms. So don't spend much time there. Stick as high as you can up towards Lake Walkerak and you should be fine. Just don't go in there expecting it to be easy. Buy them a drink as a thank you. This is all we can afford. Can I get you guys a... You notice that one of them, the tabaxi, finishes his pint of milk. And you're like, can I get you another drink as a thanks for letting me sit with you as you finish your mushroom stew? And then tabaxi goes, I mean, I never turn down a free drink. Right you are. I'll be right back. You leave your berries and your mead there and you head over to the bar. You order a couple more drinks for them and you pay for them, let's say another 5 copper. So you're going to have to split a gold at this point. So you split a gold, that'll give you 9 silver, another 5 copper back. Boom. Don't flash the money about. Yeah, you're very careful with your money. You've got a very good dexterity, and you have a decent stealth as well. So I won't roll for it. I'll just say that you are very careful with not showing off your money, not clinking it around. You're probably smart enough to have your money spread among a couple of different coin purses, not just all in one. And then you head back with your drinks for them and sit with them. Again, thank you for your advice. You mentioned setbacks earlier. I'm sorry to hear that, friend. Do you want to tell me about it? I've got an ear to spare and a shoulder to cry on if necessary. Polite smile. I'm going to give you a persuasion check on that. See if they're willing to open up about certain setbacks they've experienced. Nat 20. Nat 20. Nat 20 on your persuasion. You're not proficient in persuasion, but you do have a +1 charisma. So with a 21. There you go. With a 21, they look at each other and say, I mean, it's a story you've probably heard a million times before. We went into the Death Plains in search of Onsinsi's treasure. We've heard a lot about it. A lot of adventurers have done the same. We lost a couple good friends to the storms. We were underprepared. One of our number got taken as a punishment for us trespassing into my homeland. I was not meant to return, and I thought I knew the area well enough that I was able to get around without them seeing me, and I was wrong. And a friend of mine paid the price for it. Is Onsinsi, that's the dragon that lives in the area? Yeah. Is Onsinsi also known as the Hunter or something else? I mean, I've not heard of Onsinsi being called the Hunter. He's pretty proud about his name, and the Onsinsieths will never call him anything else. The Onsinsieths wouldn't have called themselves that if he was called something else, I guess. I don't know. I've never heard him called the Hunter anyway. Does this guy know anything about the Hunter? No. I'm so sorry. That's tough. I'm sorry to hear about your friend. Is there any chance of getting him back, breaking him out or anything? If there is, it would have been... The time for that would have been before we left. But we were too... And Tabaxi leans forward and says, we were too low on resources. There was no way we could take them. They were too powerful. They've got mithril weapons and all sorts of shit. There's no way we're breaking into the fortress. So, all we can hope is that they've killed them quickly, I guess. And they just both go into a bit of a meditative silence, I suppose, speculating on what could have been. Inconspicuous sniff check on the food and drink that we left on their table. Sure. You got to pick up your berries. Let me give you a perception check on that with your predatory patience. That's 11. 11 plus... Oh, with advantage. 11 predatory patience gives you advantage 7. So 11, and your perception is 6 for this. So 17. With 17, the berries, the drink, the cream, it all seems to have been the same smells as it was when you left it. Doesn't seem like they did anything to it. Do you want a bite of the dessert to calm your nerves? The tabaxi says no, but the tiefling goes, I mean, sure. Takes a spoonful of it and enjoys a few berries and cream. Well, to your friend. Raise the glass. They each raise their glasses as well. Start drinking. Is there anything you want to do before you head to bed? Anything more you want to learn about of the area or what you might be going into? You start chowing down on the berries. They're very delicious. They're very fresh and ripe and very juicy, very flavourful. Definitely worth the money you've spent on them. Wish them luck on their journey. We're tired after a long day of walking. Your legs are sore, for sure. One more thing, as you say, as you get up from the table. One more thing. Yeah. I've heard that it's easier to travel the Death Plains at night. Is that right? And he goes, it's cooler at night, yeah. There's still all the dangers of things that'll attack you, and obviously if you're not so good with the night... Oh, you'll be good with vision, right? You say, yeah, I'm good with low light vision. He goes, yeah, so's my friend. If you're good with low light vision, you should be fine. Obviously things can... It's cooler for you to be walking around at night, but it's cooler for the things that live there as well. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Right. Well, thanks again for your help, friends. And you turn and leave. You head back to the front where you ask Dalen at the bar, like, where's the dorm? He goes, oh, he gives you directions. Head through here, out the back door. There'll be a little path on the way. You can see the complex of doors. The biggest building off to your right, the only one that's 2 stories. That's the one that has the dorm in it. It's on the upper floor. The entire upper floor is the dorm. Find any bed in there that's free. Thank you very much. And you head out and you head towards the dorm room. As you make your way into the punch the heat in the face. Don't worry, Death Plains. I'm a monk with hand wraps of orc strength. I got this firestorm's gonna come in and I'm gonna punch it right in the nuts. You head to bed. You head into the dorm room. Sure enough, you can see that there's about 20 beds in here. Some of them bunk beds, some of them not. You look around to find a bed in there. You eventually find one that is not taken. Doesn't have any possessions lying on it, and no people either. You almost climb into one that you think is empty, and then as you're about to climb in, you notice that there's a tiny little gnome in there that's probably only like 3 foot tall, and he's fast asleep. He's drunk and passed out. And you head instead to one of the other beds. As you place your belongings somewhere near the head of the bed, where it's less likely that somebody will be able to steal it while you're sleeping, you climb into bed and start trying to get a long rest. Is there anything else you want to do before going to sleep? Hastily offer an apology to the gnome. The gnome is passed out. Fall asleep snuggling our bag. Yeah, you like put it up by your head like a pillow and just like kind of rest on your belongings as best you can. Took our stuff up against the wall next to the pillow. Yeah. Should fill up on water and more water. Plan to time our trip so that we traverse the plains at dark. Could try that. Yeah. Okay, let's just roll you a safety check essentially to see how well you can sleep with your belongings somewhere that it's going to be less likely to for somebody to pickpocket them or whatever. What would this be? Let's see. What is this going to be? I think it might just be a straight roll. Maybe a dexterity roll. I'll make it a dexterity roll. Straight dexterity roll with a +4. Here we go. That is a 17 + 4. You are rolling very well today. That is a 21 on your roll of like just making sure to tuck them into you so that you're less likely to get robbed in the night. You chuck a blanket over you. It's simple. It's not shit. The accommodation that you've got, it's decent, but it's no like fancy place either, which is all that you've paid for anyway. And as you go to sleep for the night, you have a long rest. I'll click the long rest button. Anything that you lost comes back. Not that I think you've used anything today. The singular charge of your orc braces when they were given to you, that comes back for the day. And in the night, I'm going to roll to see if anybody wants to try their luck at robbing you. In a dorm like this time of year, people passing through, they know the reputation of the Scabbard. If they get caught, they get properly fucked up. There's a whole room of adventurers. The chances are it's going to be a percentile. All right. And then cool. Robbing a bear person doesn't sound like a very smart idea. Robbing a bear person in a dorm full of 20 other adventurers who are like do-gooders going out to slay monsters is also not a smart idea. And doing so in a bar that has a reputation for abiding no nonsense, like zero tolerance of bullshit, is also not a good idea. Because the Scabbard, not that you know it necessarily, but it is extremely well respected against adventurers. It's kind of like trying to, I don't suppose this is a perfect analogy because it's like, I was going to say it's trying to rob a mob boss's favourite restaurant or something. It's not a perfect analogy because it's not like protected by the wrong side of the law. But the adventurers who know the Scabbard and the people who own it, like Dalen and the people before him who owned the place, are very well respected among the adventurers, and they would not take kindly to finding out that somebody's trying to mess with the guests. We picked a good bar. You did indeed, yes. Like the hotel in John Wick, yes, yeah. If someone gets robbed, it's probably someone who's passed out drunk. Mm-hmm, probably. It's like trying to steal from the Batcave. Yeah. yeah. Like trying to threaten a mob boss with a Manticore spine in a bar full of mob people. You know, great ideas. All right, so as we have a long rest and prepare for the next day's travel from Holdover into the Death Plains proper, with the last minute preparations and what we're going to do, that is where we're going to end episode 8 for today, and we'll join you in episode 9. See how we survive the Death Plains. Bye, everybody.
Hey, did you know that the Twitch Tales campaign is also available as a podcast? Check out the links in the description if you prefer to just listen.